that the value of new commercial papers listings in the first 7 months of 2025 more than doubled compared to the same period in 2024 to hit 1.58 trillion. That's according to the FMDQ monthly report. We'll get into all these stories because I've got here a formidable mind. Chika and Mbonu, so delighted to be finally getting to interview you.
I'll be on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on Business Week. But let's start
let me just dispense with the Access Bank.
Yes, please,
thing.
let's start with that,
When you see cause and effect, to be able to understand the Access Bank group's managing director, changes, you need to go back to the fact that the current central bank is compliance-driven.
Yeah.
Basically, it's doing things by the books. And if you have to deal with the central bank of this era, you must just do it that way. There are no two rules.
Absolutely.
For two different banks. And that's not like the CBN government is my friend. So one bank gets 10% and another bank gets 12%. Summary. How sadly the founding group, first group MD, group holding MD of Access Bank died, passed on, and then it's a state of emergency, and then Miss Bolaji Abede had to put in place to hold on as acting MD. And for 18 months now, and it's been on, what the CBN has said, let's get things right. There are procedures for holding company, appointing holding company CEOs, and those compliances must be met after the mourning period for the demise of Mr. Wigwe, and that's basically what has happened. There's nothing happening in the bank. There's no boss squabble as some people have written. Nobody's fighting anybody, but it's really in compliance with the CBN rules about holding company appointments.
Yes.
Basically, first of all, and then before you can get there, you must be an ED in a subsidiary company, in the down company for at least minimum 7 years experience. Secondly, if you are in the same company that you're moving to the HOCO, you must have a 2-year waiting period.
Yeah.
Cooling off period.
Yeah.
Those didn't happen in this case with Bolaji because of the circumstances we faced then. And CBN conciliated to let things happen. And so that's what happened. Inosenike is a first-class banker. From the Foladiola Tayodonoku book factory of Guarantee Trust Bank, 10-year veteran of Access Bank too. He was general manager before he left. ED and MD of, at the time of Polaris Bank.
Yeah.
A fellow of Children's Institute of Chartered Accountants. First class Medical Institute of University of Lagos. Call it fellow of Children's Institute of Bankers. Member Institute of Stockbrokers. Risk managers certified, everything. So
credentials are under
So it's come to at this phase. Bolaji has done very well, transition during the sad period of the bank, and then Innocent Ike will now take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing to the story, and we just push it and then let the Access Bank continue to. That's the Access Bank, Nigeria's largest bank based on assets.
Yeah. Let's stay on banking. Let's look at the CBN circular.
Okay. That circular dealt with two things. The first one was the ISO 222 that had to do with migration to that, and we had to deal with the fact that the Nigerian payment infrastructure has to be modernized. That ISO standard is basically the world standard for messaging around the whole world on bank relationships. I don't want to dwell so much on that because that one is routine. But the main story
is this geotagging. That's the real gist there.
The geotagging. Geotagging. The thing is there are some things that happen in Nigeria and then they come as a blessing and they come curses. One thing that has happened in Nigeria in that respect is the emergence of POS.
Yeah.
POS came into Nigeria to drive financial inclusion, and it came with a lot of advantages. And so banking has become everywhere. But also, what's happened now that anywhere you mention something bad about banking in Nigeria, there's always a POS agent attached to it, and that's basically what this is trying to address. See, Roleke, for example, in 2023. There were about 18,000 frauds, POS frauds.
Wow.
More than 31% of the frauds in the banking system were POS induced. Indeed, the system lost about 4.5 billion through POS frauds. I mean, there are other statistics. This is from NIBS anyway. Yeah, we don't just manufacture it. And the other figures for the other years. But look at this. Q1 in 2025, the transactions through POS have risen to about almost 11 trillion. That tells you the impact of that in the system now. And therefore, it's important that Central Bank of Nigeria regulates the POS system. What has been the major problem is the traceability. Now, so the geofencing for our viewers has to do with how far you can take a POS.
I think it's 10 meter radius.
10 meters, yes. So the geotagging means that one, it has to be registered. Two, it has to, each time you make a transaction, you must say where you got it from. So it must be location based. So if you have a POS in front of our office here, you cannot use it outside our office. So we used to hear tales of, citizens of our country that, enter into the wrong hands of some rogue agents, and suddenly they say they don't have money. The next thing they bring out POS from their bag, and then say bring your this in. We even have heard of a lot of skits now of the people of lesser trades that, after the renting services, they bring a POS. So POS from Maiduguri can come into Lagos and commit some this thing.
But can I ask you a question?
Please go ahead, Rebecca.
Is part of what the POS and the agency network has done is promote financial inclusion. Is there a way that this directive can be implemented that it might actually then start to limit inclusion? Because part of having this agency and POS thing is so that you get some degree of empowerment economically for these agents. So could it actually affect those who are legally working under the directive but end up being excluded because these new rules? Could they phase it? Could they look at aggregation? Or
I know there are short-term inconveniences that may come with this policy, but the bigger long-term advantages override. I hear you about the financial inclusion, but you see, if you go to some locations, you find a cluster of POS agents, about 3, 4, 5 of them in one place. I think well executed, it will have more pluses than the minuses. Because the amount of, the tales that we hear about people. Look at this issue of one chance people. If they get into one chance, I'm sure you know what a one chance.
They can extract all your cash.
They just take your card. They take your card and head for the POS.
No, you make some very good point. I think in terms of money laundering, data
traceability
collection
is a major issue. So we now know where it happened. With it, and then we can trace it. Some of them some of the new policies will stop outright. Some of them it will help the authorities to trace.
And I really like the fact that it also enhances data collection.
Data collection,
which is fantastic.
So many advantages. So many advantages.
So the other story is this short-dated commercial paper trend. No surprising given the sort of high yield environment, but on longer term corporate bonds and rates. But it's
not just that also. Of course. What's happening is driven from the nature of commercial papers. Short term, quick to fix.
You hold them to maturity.
Quick to issue. Very flexible instruments that corporates and so on can use now to. Even banks now can raise money.
In fact, banks are amongst the top 3.
So the advantages arise from the nature of the commercial papers. Now, let me quickly rush to the issue. People say, why are the institutions not issuing bonds? Remember, bonds are longer dated.
Now,
but see, when you have macroeconomic instability like we have, inflation, interest rate uncertainties, and so on and so forth. Remember, when you get into bonds, 3-4 years, you're locked in.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have that flexibility.
So what happens now? People are waiting out. So they get into these commercial paper programs, solve their liquidity, working capital problems, short-term liquidity problems, and then hold it onto. And look at what happens in most places. Is the commercial papers are rolled over. So
you have that repricing flexibility.
Exactly. So the long term is almost like a succession of different short terms. So that they're achieving their long-term needs by rolling over. But we're waiting out the interest rate direction.
Exactly.
So let's know where interest rate is. Instead of entering into a bond scheme now, that you lock yourself with the interest rate, because the direction of Nigerian interest rate, remember, inflation is waning. The exchange rate is stabilizing. the direction of interest rates, therefore, is what? Downwards.
It's down, but even then.
Expected to be downwards. So why lock yourself into a bond scheme that will transcend the next 2 years using this current market?
And you know, the other thing I see is that, you know, corporate bonds don't have a really active dealer market. So you can't easily exit them.
Yes.
Plus, some of them have covenants that may not be very
The other
flexible.
thing is, as I said, the quick issuance. I mean, this one, remember, you're just going straight to the investment companies, the pension companies, even the corporates and so on and so forth. You don't need collateral.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unsecured.
It's just secured. It's just there because some banks will tell you to bring an arm and a leg and stuff like that. Before you perfect it, the need may have passed. But this one, you just get in there and then get the money, ride your liquidity, solve your liquidity gaps, and then roll it over as the case may be.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, even with the easing yield environment, I'm not necessarily seeing a rush to corporate bonds either.
It won't happen, as I told you, until the macroeconomic environment is resolved.
There's clarity.
There's clarity in that, until it's resolved. First half of the year had been bunched up because a lot of liquidity, so a lot of people rush into it. Second half of the year may not be as first half of the year, but you see, the uncertainties in the exchange rate system, the interest rate environment, we'll see a lot of issues again happening for the second half of the year.
Fantastic. Great insights as always, Chika and Mbonu. Great mind. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.